So welcome back. The Independent Electoral Commission says it regrets the unauthorized disclosure of party candidate nominations and systems are underway to deal with this matter. Now, this comes after the Commission identified the internal source of a leak that affected two political parties contesting this year's national and provincial elections. And during its media briefing that was held last night, the IEC also confirmed that the voters' roll has increased to over 27.79 million registered voters, which is, of course, the highest number since the dawn of the country's democracy 30 years ago. So for more on what has transpired over the past few days and hours, we are joined virtually by Mawethu Mosery, who's the IEC's Deputy Chief Electoral Officer. Mr. Mosery, thanks for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Sakina, and good morning to your viewers. Good to be with you this morning.
So let's start, Mr. Mosery, with the crux of the matter. The IEC, of course, indicating that it has identified and processes are underway to deal with the internal source of a leak whereby party candidates' nomination lists for two parties were leaked. So can you just give us the latest on that? Have you been able to identify directly the person involved, and what measures are you taking?
Good morning, Sakina. On that matter, indeed, we did cast our net very wide the evening of Friday, the whole day on Saturday and Sunday, and we were certainly able to narrow down to a few individuals that we needed to do further work around their systems access and the work that they did, and we were able to then zone in on one individual. And on inquiry with this individual yesterday, we did confirm that the downloads were done. We did confirm that the downloads of candidate lists were emailed somewhere else, which we've not established what it is. And indeed, our investigation continues. It has not ended. But in light of what had transpired and what had happened, we ended up terminating the services of the one individual. But obviously, we've not concluded on many others who may have or had the type of access that is undesirable in what they would have downloaded. And therefore, that this inquiry has not ended. It's still continuing, Sakina.
So one person has now been fired, but surely the IEC is concerned about the credibility of the organization as a result of this incident, because there are questions about the IEC's ability to run a free and fair election.
Indeed, we are concerned. We are even grateful that we could identify the document as quickly as we did. And secondly, that we were able within the 2 days to reach a point where we can intervene and deal with particular individuals, and to where we are now. We have also looked at what could have created this kind of access and how do we close whatever gaps that may be there in tightening access to these sensitive reports, even for our own personnel. Obviously, every individual in the commission handles sensitive information, confidential information, and they need to remain professional and ethical in their conduct. And what we see here is not an organized reason as yet that the person had ill intentions or what, that we've not established. Therefore, we can't say we doubt the institution in terms of its capability to deliver a free and fair election, a credible election. But we are with an awkward individual who behaved incorrectly. And sometimes with people we employ, we realize when incidents of this nature happen that they were not suitable for the institution.
I think your choice of words is kind of interesting, Mr. Mosery. Awkward individual who didn't seem to have any ill intent per se. But what was the intent then of this individual? Was there any confession from them? I mean, to what end did they release this information? And why of these two parties? And also, are you sure that this person operated individually?
At this stage, it does point to a solo act of an individual. Obviously, I did indicate that the inquiry is still proceeding. And secondly, we've not established as yet that there were ill intents on the part of this individual. Obviously, looking further at where it was shared, with whom it was shared, and what was the overall, where the people obviously aware of the overall impact on the elections themselves, on the institution, and the affected individuals. And what worries us the most with this unauthorized release of this data is the personal information of individuals in that list. In any case, I mean, one may argue that these lists were going to be public in another 14 days. But the fact that they were prematurely released and incorrectly released in terms of data, and it was not authorized, those are the three things that we are dealing with and why it was done.
Mr. Mosery, were you able to establish who that information was sent to? Who was the recipient on the other end?
Not as yet. That's part of the work that we're proceeding with at this stage.
So looking again, about the credibility and the integrity of the 2024 election, is the IEC at all concerned about the Democratic Alliance and the multi-party pact writing to the United States of America's Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and also to the U.S. Embassy here in Pretoria, where they have asked for monitors to come and observe the upcoming elections in South Africa? How is this likely to impact your work and that of the international observers, if at all?
It should not affect our work. We basically say when we manage elections in South Africa, we manage them in a space of a framework that has full transparency. And full transparency includes media having access, unlimited access to processes of elections from the time we start with special votes to the time we conclude on the results. So it's a transparent process. We are not at all worried. Secondly, we have political party agents in all voting stations. From various political parties. And given the numbers that we're looking at now of likely contestants of about 27 independent candidates and over 100 political parties in this election, there'll be a number of party agents throughout the process. And lastly, we invite observers, both international observers and domestic observers. When it comes to international observers, certainly inviting a government of another country to come and observe is not a normal thing in any electoral process in any country. It's not a global phenomenon. What is common is the intergovernmental organizations or multilateral organizations who are always invited to come and observe elections. And certainly approaching a lawmaker of another country is inappropriate. I don't think we will even consider accrediting such persons to observe our election. The authority of accreditation to observe election is with the Electoral Commission, and we have a framework on who we accredit as international observers. Lastly, Sakina, a person of a stature of a lawmaker or a diplomat cannot, in the space of sovereignty of any state come as an observer. It's always people who are non-aligned, who are able to do observation, or who are part of these multilateral organizations who do election observation, Sakin.
Mr. Mosery, you just touched on the numbers of the parties that made submissions. You had indicated last week sometime that there were 115 parties that made submissions to contest seats in the National Assembly, with 101 of those currently unrepresented in the National Assembly or provincial legislatures. So, are you expecting that number to change along with that of the individuals who will be contesting as well?
Yes, we did confirm that 16 individuals have been nominated and met the primary requirements to be independents for the national elections, which means they are contesting regional seats in the country. We just about 11 other individuals legislatures. So that's where my number of about 27 comes from. We obviously have to look at signatures that were submitted in support of that and ensure that deposits were paid in their nomination process and confirm them to be so as candidates. With political parties, yes, we may see a number change because some parties did not pay their deposits. Some parties did not submit the full quota of the required signatures. So that's the kind of verification work we are doing in the next week. We should be able to then interact with those political parties and give them the status and the outcome of our verification process, Saki. Yes, we may see...
A final question, Mr. Mosery. You indicated that the voters' roll will be certified today. Are you still on track for that?
Yes, definitely we are on track with that. And part of our briefing yesterday, we confirmed that we have 27.79 million voters on the roll. This is after the Commission has given us its feedback, the commissioners, on the objections that they had received, what their decision is on every objection that was received. During the course of last night and this morning, the communication to those who had objected is going out. As we conclude that process, we will certify the voters' roll later this afternoon.
Mr. Mawethu Mosery, thanks so much for your time. The IEC's Deputy Chief Electoral Officer talking to us about the IEC's latest developments with regard to this year's elections, including the latest on the party candidates leak, and telling us that one employee has been dealt with, dismissed as a regard of that, and of course certification of the voters' roll still on track for today.